My wife's toxic best friend manipulated her to ruin our marriage. Now, my wife's begging to reconcile after finding out it. I'm 34, and I just finalized my divorce from my wife of 5 years, who I thought I'd be with forever. This isn't one of those stories where the relationship slowly falls apart, where you see the cracks forming and try to patch them up until it's just too late. No, this was like waking up one day and finding out the life you thought you had was a complete lie. And the worst part, it all started because of her so-called best friend. My wife and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5. She was smart, funny, and kind. Or at least I thought so. Her best friend, though, she was the complete opposite. Loud, dramatic, and always in the middle of some kind of mess. Let's just call her Friend because even thinking about her real name makes my blood boil. Friend had been in my wife's life since college, and she always acted like she was the third person in our marriage. Anytime we had a big decision to make, her friend's opinion was somehow just as important as ours. I didn't like her, but I tolerated her because she was important to my wife. Looking back, the red flags were there from the start. When we were planning our wedding, my wife had promised her sister she'd be her maid of honor. But her friend threw a fit, saying she deserved the role because she'd been there through everything. She guilt-tripped my wife about how much she'd done for her in college, how she'd been her shoulder to cry on during breakups and all that. My wife caved. That was the first time I saw how easily Friend could manipulate her. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to start our marriage off with a fight over her best friend. Friend's entitlement didn't stop there. A year after we got married, she asked to borrow my car because hers was in the shop. I said yes, figuring it'd just be for a couple of days. But 2 weeks later, she still had it and she'd racked up parking tickets. When I confronted her, she acted like I was the one out of line. She called me up tight and said, "It's just a car. Don't be so dramatic." My wife asked me to drop it, saying I was making a big deal out of nothing. That argument didn't sit right with me, but again, I let it go. The worst was when her friend stayed with us while she was looking for a new apartment. It was supposed to be for a week. That week turned into a month. She treated our house like her personal crash pad, leaving her crap everywhere, taking over the living room, and complaining about the food I cooked. When I finally told my wife she needed to go, she accused me of being controlling and toxic. My wife reluctantly asked her to leave, but not without telling me I could have handled it better. At that point, I should have known she would always be a problem, but I thought as long as she wasn't living with us, I could manage. I didn't realize just how much control she had over my wife until it was too late. 6 months ago, everything came crashing down. My wife went to brunch with her friend, and when she came back, she was acting weird, distant, cold. I asked her what was wrong, and she just shrugged and said nothing. I pushed, and finally she snapped. She told me her friend had seen me at a coffee shop the day before with another woman laughing and touching her arm. She said friend described my jacket, my hat, everything. I was stunned. I told her that wasn't possible because I hadn't been at a coffee shop. I'd gone grocery shopping that day, and that was it. She didn't believe me. She said friend wouldn't lie about something like this, and that she didn't know how to trust me anymore. She called me a liar to my face. I tried to explain, tried to get her to see how ridiculous this all was, but she shut me down. She said, maybe this marriage isn't worth saving if you can't even be honest with me. That hit me like a slap. I couldn't believe she'd throw away our relationship over some nonsense her friend made up. But no matter what I said, she was convinced I was lying. That night, she slept in the guest room. A week later, she packed her bags and left, saying she needed time to think. Then, out of nowhere, I got served separation papers. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. She wouldn't even talk to me directly anymore. Everything had to go through lawyers. Friend was still in her ear the whole time, spreading her version of events to anyone who would listen. People I thought were my friends started avoiding me. Even my own family started asking questions like, "Are you sure there's nothing you're not telling us?" For weeks, I was stuck in this fog of anger and confusion. I kept replaying everything in my head, wondering if there was something I could have done differently. But the truth was, my wife didn't even give me a chance. She believed friend without hesitation, without question. That hurt more than anything. Then one day, a coworker of friends reached out to me. She said she'd overheard her friend bragging about how she'd finally gotten rid of me. Apparently, she thought I was too controlling and had been trying to convince my wife to leave me for months. When that didn't work, she decided to make up the cheating story. The coworker even had screenshots of text messages where a friend admitted to lying. When I saw those messages, I felt a mix of relief and rage. On one hand, I finally had proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't done anything wrong. On the other hand, it confirmed just how malicious her friend was and how easily my wife had fallen for it. I immediately sent the screenshots to my lawyer and asked for a meeting with my wife. I told her I wanted to meet at a park near our old neighborhood. She agreed, though she sounded hesitant, probably thinking it was going to be another argument. When she showed up, she looked nervous like she didn't want to be there. I didn't bother with small talk. I just handed her my phone with the screenshots of texts. She started reading, and I watched her face change. First confusion, then disbelief, and finally horror. Her hands started shaking as she scrolled through the messages. When she finished, she looked up at me, her face pale. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear I didn't know. I didn't say anything. I just stood there waiting for her to say something else. She started stammering, trying to apologize, saying she'd been manipulated, that she thought she was doing the right thing by believing friend. She's my best friend, she said. I trusted her. I thought she was looking out for me. That's the problem, I said, my voice calm but firm. You trusted her more than me. You didn't even give me the benefit of the doubt. You threw away our marriage over a lie, and you didn't even stop to think about what that says about us. Tears started streaming down her face, and she begged me to give her another chance. She said we could go to counseling, that she'd cut a friend out of her life, and that we could fix this. But something inside me had already broken. This wasn't just about the lie anymore. It was about how little trust she had in me, how easily she believed the worst about me without even trying to find out the truth. I can't. I told her. You made your choice. You believe her over me, and I can't come back from that. She kept crying, saying she'd do anything to make it up to me. But I'd already made up my mind. I walked away and left her standing there. In the park. After that, things moved quickly. She didn't fight the divorce, probably because she knew she didn't have a leg to stand on. I kept the house, and she moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Mutual friends started reaching out, apologizing for believing the rumors and asking if there was anything they could do. I appreciated it, but at that point, I just wanted to move on. Friend tried to do damage control too. She sent me a long message, half apologizing and half justifying what she did. She claimed she was trying to protect my wife, that she thought I was controlling and manipulative. It was a load of crap, and I didn't even bother responding. I blocked her on everything and told anyone who brought her up that I didn't want to hear her name again. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, my ex-wife called me. She was drunk and crying, saying she missed me and blaming friend for everything. She said she felt like an idiot for believing her and that she wished she could take it all back. I told her it didn't matter anymore. What was done was done. I hung up and haven't spoken to her since. Since then, my life has gotten a lot better. I've reconnected with old friends, thrown myself into my work, and even started dating again. The woman I'm seeing now is everything my ex wasn't. Kind, supportive, and most importantly, trusting. Looking back, I can see how toxic that whole situation was. Friends' manipulation was obvious in hindsight, but what hurt the most was how easily. My wife let her friend get between us. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and once it's gone, there's no getting it back. I don't regret walking away. Some things just aren't worth fighting for. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.